He united warring tribes into an unstoppable fighting force, built one of the largest empires in history, and left a legacy that still influences the world today. This is the incredible story of Mongol, the man who changed the course of history forever. Our story begins in 1162 AD in the harsh and unforgiving landscape of Mongolia. The region was a desolate grassland with few trees and little shelter from the elements. But it was also a place of great freedom where nomadic clans roamed at will. Life was hard for everyone here, and there was constant danger from rival clans and hungry predators. But even in this harsh environment, hope flickered. And for one young boy, the future looked especially bright. That boy's name was Temüjin, and he would go on to become the legendary Genghis Khan. Temüjin's father was a chief of a small clan, but he wasn't very good at his job. He had several wives and many children, but couldn't keep them safe or prosperous. When Temüjin was just 9 years old, a rival clan attacked his father's camp and killed him. Now an orphan, Temüjin and his family were forced to flee into the wilderness and fend for themselves. For the next few years, they lived in hiding, constantly on the move and struggling to find food. Temüjin grew up fast and soon found himself in charge of protecting his mother and siblings. He learned how to hunt and fight, and he used these skills to help his family survive. But life was still tough, and there were times when they went hungry. One day, Temüjin and his brother were out hunting when they came across a deer carcass that had been killed by a rival clan. They tried to take the meat back to their camp, but the clan spotted them and attacked. Temüjin fought bravely, but he was outnumbered and eventually captured. The clan leader offered him a choice: either submit to them and become their slave or die. Temüjin refused and prepared for his death. But then something unexpected happened. A woman who worked in the clan's camp intervened and saved Temüjin's life. She paid the clan leader a large sum of money to buy Temüjin's freedom. It turned out that the woman was the wife of a merchant, and she had taken pity on Temüjin and his family. With their debt now paid, Temüjin and his brother were free to return to their camp. Now, while Temüjin was gone, his younger brother had died, and this left Temüjin as the only male in his family. In those days, it was important to have sons to carry on the family line and protect their mother. So Temüjin decided he needed a new brother. At the time, there was a young man named Bort who was married to one of Temüjin's cousins. Bortai was known for her beauty and intelligence, but she was also very independent and headstrong. When Temüjin approached her about becoming his brother, she wasn't sure if she wanted to accept. She was already married, and she didn't want to upset the balance of their family structure. But after much consideration, she agreed to the union, and the two became man and wife. Soon after, Borte became pregnant and gave birth to a baby boy. Temüjin was overjoyed. Not only did he now have a brother, but he also had an ally in the clan. His wife's father was powerful and influential, and he helped Temüjin build alliances with other clans. Temüjin continued to hone his skills as a warrior and leader, and he soon earned the respect of his peers. One day, a group of rival clans attacked Borta's father's camp. Temüjin and his allies were outnumbered, but they fought back to back to defend their families. Temüjin was a natural leader, and he inspired his men to fight bravely. They managed to repel the attack, but it was clear to Temüjin that they needed more allies if they were going to survive. So he set out to unite the various Mongol clans under his banner. He traveled from clan to clan, meeting with leaders and making alliances. He was a charismatic leader, and many clans were eager to join him. Some were drawn to his vision of a united Mongol empire, while others simply wanted to protect themselves from the threat of war with China. By 1206, Temüjin had united most of the Mongol clans, and he was ready to declare himself emperor. He called his new empire the Mongol Empire and set his capital in Karakorum. His advisors urged him to take a new name that would reflect his status as emperor. So he took the title Genghis Khan, which means Ocean of Wisdom. Now that he had an empire to rule, Genghis Khan turned his attention to the task of governing. He created a new legal code that was based on the laws of the clans. He also established a system of courts and appointed judges to enforce the law. Genghis Khan was a firm believer in equality before the law, and he made sure that everyone in his empire was treated fairly. He also created a new currency and a standard system of weights and measures. He encouraged trade and commerce and appointed merchants to represent the empire in foreign lands. But Genghis Khan was not content to simply rule over his own people. He wanted to expand his empire and bring all of Asia under his control. He began by attacking the Kara Kitai, a Turkish tribe that controlled the trade routes in Central Asia. The Kara Kitai had been a thorn in the side of the Mongols for years, and Genghis Khan was eager to destroy them. He led his army in a series of brilliant battles that crushed the Kara Kitai and opened up the trade routes to the east. Next, he turned his attention to the Western Shah, a Chinese kingdom that bordered the Mongol Empire to the south. Again, Genghis Khan was victorious, and he added the Western Shah to his growing empire. At this point, Genghis Khan could have rested on his laurels and enjoyed the fruits of his success. But he was too ambitious for that. He wanted more. He turned his attention to the great empires of the Middle East and Europe. He sent embassies to the kings of France, England, and Rome asking for submission. But when the embassies were met with scorn, Genghis Khan declared war. He led his army across the Gobi Desert and into China. There he engaged the armies of the Quraysh Empire in a series of epic battles. The Mongols were outnumbered, but they were too disciplined and too well led to be defeated. The Quraysh army was no match for Genghis Khan and his generals, and soon the entire empire was under Mongol control. Genghis Khan continued his campaign of conquest as he moved west. He defeated the Khwarazmians, the Persians, and the Arabs. Everywhere he went, he left a trail of destruction in his wake. But he was not simply a brutal conqueror. He was also a brilliant strategist and administrator. As he expanded his empire, he took care to integrate the conquered peoples into his empire. He appointed non-Mongols to important positions in government and the military, and he encouraged the exchange of ideas and culture between the different peoples of his empire. After a decade of campaigning, Genghis Khan's empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe. It was the largest contiguous land empire in history. Unfortunately, Genghis Khan never got to see the full extent of his empire. He died in 1227 while on campaign against the Western Shah, but his empire would continue to grow after his death. His successors would conquer the rest of China, as well as parts of Eastern Europe and the Middle East. So what was it that made Genghis Khan such a great leader? What allowed him to unite warring clans, build one of the largest empires in history, and leave a legacy that still influences the world today? Part of it was his charisma and ability to inspire others. He was a natural leader who was able to unite people under a common banner. But it was also his willingness to learn from others that made him so effective. He was always open to new ideas, and he surrounded himself with people who were smarter than him. This allowed him to see the big picture and make decisions that were in the best interest of his empire. Finally, it was his ruthlessness that made him so successful. He was not afraid to make hard decisions and do whatever it took to achieve his goals. In conclusion, the story of Genghis Khan is one of ambition, courage, and success. He was a true leader who was able to accomplish what many thought impossible. He changed the course of history, and his legacy continues to inspire people around the world today. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.